Hey guys, my name is Michelle. Over here I have a Jeep Patriot 2010 with a 2.4 liter with the CVT transmission. I bought this car. It's no drive condition, so when you put it in drive or reverse, nothing happens. It doesn't move. So I bought the car for cheap, and today I'll be replacing the transmission with another unit, or maybe just check to see what parts in it are broken. So I'll take you guys along to see what steps it takes to take out the transmission out of the Jeep. So to take out the transmission, you got to start by removing all the stuff on top of the engine bay on the right side of the engine. The transmission lives under here. I've already removed the battery. I just have the air box back on. So I'll come back with you guys when I've removed everything from here. Hey guys, here is the transmission with nothing on it. So the battery box, ECU, TIPM, airbox is all taken off. I just took off the linkage here. I still need to remove the bracket that's holding the linkage on. I got to remove the breather. I still have the two engine mounts here and over there to remove, and the two filter housing hoses that come in that I have to remove. But I'll do that later when I'll remove the axle shafts. So just to give you a little update. So this is what it should look like when you're pretty much ready to take it down, except for the things that I mentioned. So after you've removed all of the stuff on top, jack the vehicle up really high. This is where we're going to remove the transmission from. So I'm just going to go underneath, remove the plastic skid plate, and then the cross member. And then I'm going to take out the wheels to be able to remove the axles on each side, here and here. And then I'll get back to on top of the engine. You guys, so here's underneath the transmission. So as you can see, I've removed the skid plate that's here, and I removed the cross member that goes across here. So here's the cross member. It has one of the mounts, so that's why when I was on top, I didn't mention anything about the front mount being removed, because it could just stay on it right like that. Still has the rear mount to remove. So this engine is only held in by the passenger side engine mount, so I'll have to put a jack underneath it to hold it up. So next step is to remove the axle shafts. So to remove the axle shafts, you need to remove the axle nuts. You need to remove these bolts here on top of the knuckle, and remove some of these brackets to have some extra play in the hoses, since well, this line for the ABS sensor is very tight or very taut, and then this brake line, so just so you don't snag anything. So just give some slack to these hoses, release these two knuckle bolts, and then lean it forward, and you should be able to remove the axle shaft on each side. Guys, just show you. So the 2 bolts here are removed. The brackets here are both loose to give a play in the cables, and I loosened this cable here for the ABS sensor. Sorry, for the wheel speed sensor. So as you can see, the bracket is not on anymore. I put the nut back, bolt back, so I don't lose any of the bolts. So the next step is to do the other side, put a drain pan under the transmission, and then pull out these CV axles. Hey guys, so I've removed those 2 axle shafts on each side. So this one's a little bit more complicated because you got to remove the axle bracket over here on the rear of the engine, and then when you got that done, you can pull that one straight out. It looks like that when it's out. So here's the beginning of the shaft. That is the mount that goes on the engine. That's what goes in the transmission. Same thing on the other side, except that's a half shaft. So it's a much smaller one, a lot easier to get out. You just with a little pry bar and it pulls right out. Now I'm going to start working on getting the transmission unbolted on the bottom. So I'm going to turn the engine to be able to remove the flywheel bolts from the torque converter, and then start removing the bottom bolts for the transmission that holds it up to the engine. And then after that, I'll have to support the engine here with a block of wood on the bolt pan, and then remove all the 2 mounts that'll be left on it with the cooler lines and the shifting cable. And then I'll be able to lower the transmission onto the floor here, onto a dolly, and then start working on it. Hey guys, so I removed all the bolts from the bottom of the transmission. There was 1 bolt here behind this fire shield. From the other side, you have access from underneath the car. There's a lot of room underneath this car. Now I only have 3 bolts left holding from the starter to the transmission. That sandwiches the engine in between, I believe. I'm going to throw up a screenshot of the actual face of the transmission from a photo I found online, just to give me an idea how many bolts were left. So I have 1 like lower here, and then 2 up here. And then I still have the shifting cable here to undo, and the two mounts here. No, sorry, the mount over there is already unbolted. It's only this mount left holding it to the transmission, so I got to start supporting it now before I undo everything else, before it opens up like a clamshell. So I'll get back to you guys. So once you remove all the bolts from the top of the transmission, you undo the engine mount here, which I've already removed the bolts out of. You chain yourself. Well, I chain myself to the top of the block just so it doesn't fall on the floor, with a floor jack on the floor with another jack to hold up the engine. And I'm gonna lower it slowly onto the floor so I can take the transmission up underneath. Just a quick tip for you guys while you guys are removing it. So you got to remove the engine mount here, because you cannot back up the transmission enough to clear the bell house over there. And the dipstick tube, you got to remove it because the frame of the car, or the subframe over there, hits the transmission, so you got to move it forward to be able to lower it. But with the dipstick in the way, it starts hitting the fans, so you got to remove the dipstick to be able to move it forward enough to bring it down all the way. Just thought I'd tell you guys. Here it is, guys. Kind of fell at the end, about 6 inches. There's my mess with my blocks of wood, but it only fell a couple inches. So there's the transmission. There's the hole. So I'm probably gonna put my red jack underneath the engine just to hold it up, because I don't want the engine falling. Might even just put the shop crane on top of it. Hook myself up somewhere on that. Don't know yet. See tomorrow. Sorry for the parts I didn't film. I kept forgetting to hit record. I'm kind of getting back into YouTube, so that was the hard part last time. Just trying to remember to hit the play button or the record button. But yeah, so just you don't remember to put your bolts back where you took them out, and everything should go on well.